Hey everyone, welcome to the 20th Annual Lupus Summit, hosted by the Lupus Foundation of America, North Carolina chapter. I'm so happy that you have chosen to attend this session, Managing Your Overall Wellness During Times of Stress. My name is Daniela, health coach and autoimmune specialist. There are a lot of great takeaways from this session that you can begin to implement right away and improve your quality of life during such stressful times. And at the end of the presentation, I've included a couple ways that you can stay connected with me. I look forward to hearing from you about how this session has positively impacted you. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I hope that you enjoy this presentation. Hello, Lupus Warriors. Welcome to Managing Your Overall Wellness During Times of Stress. I'm Daniela Spear, certified health coach and autoimmune specialist. Before we begin this presentation, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a lupus warrior of 12 years. And I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Exercise and Sports Science from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. My career in fitness stems from a lifelong passion of movement. I was a gymnast and played a variety of other sports while growing up. But when I got to college, I saw that playing sports was no longer feasible for me, and instead I began to exercise on my own. And I found that exercise became a way for me to manage my lupus symptoms while also navigating the changing lifestyles of college. I have since been able to merge my passion and my diagnosis into a career that teaches women living with lupus and other autoimmune diseases to love their body again through movement, through breath work, and simple nutrition strategies. I aim to help you move well and live well so you can love well. Because when we love well, we are truly living in alignment with our purpose. And aside from fitness, I'm also a plant mom, a new dog mom, and I also love blogging. I love traveling with my husband as well. And I secretly love M&Ms. So don't let that health coach title fool you. I really love chocolate. In this presentation, we are going to cover a few things. We will define what is wellness and what is stress. We will also discuss the physiology of wellness and stress, so we'll take a look at what happens inside of our bodies when we are feeling well versus when we are feeling stressed. Then we'll go over the 5-ish key elements to manage stress, and I say 5-ish because some elements have a few components. I have a tendency to over-deliver. We'll also discuss how you can implement these strategies, and finally we'll also go over what do you do if you get a lupus flare. There are a lot of golden nuggets of information in this presentation, so please do not get overwhelmed. You don't have to master all of these by tomorrow. Take what serves you and leave what doesn't. And what I mean by that is try to focus on just one or two things that really resonate with you and think about how you can begin to implement that into your lifestyle. My goal is to give you practical applications for overall wellness during all different seasons of life. Let's dive in. So, what is wellness? Wellness is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This definition was provided by the World Health Organization. But I'm actually going to change this definition a little. I believe that wellness is a constant journey towards that state of completeness. Our lives are always evolving, and so should our approach to wellness. I don't think it's ever really complete. It should be an ongoing journey to seek wellness in any circumstances, even in the presence of a disease. And if you know the World Health Organization, you can tell them to give me a call. Stress, on the other hand, is defined as the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or a response. And I do agree with this definition. Anytime our body experiences change, there's a stress response that is initiated. So when we think of stress, we normally think of bad stress, but there's another kind of stress. This is known as eustress, which is actually helpful to us. So think of exercise or encouragement from your friends and family to take on a new challenge. So, those things can feel stressful, but they can really benefit us as well. But as with most things, too much of anything can become a bad thing. So this is, where that stress response comes in. So let's discuss what happens inside of our bodies when we are stressed. Your stress response hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine all spike in levels and create an inflammatory response. And depending on how you personally handle stress, it could take anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple of days for these hormones to return to normal levels. So cortisol is your stress hormone, and cortisol actually has some positive roles in the body. It helps maintain a regular sleep cycle and produces a small amount of inflammation needed for healing processes, and it also helps to balance fluid levels and blood pressure. But too much lingering cortisol is what can become the issue. So too much cortisol can suppress the immune system, produces acne, increases blood pressure, and contributes to weight gain. Now, adrenaline, this is commonly known as our fight or flight response. It's that surge of energy you feel in a stressful situation. So when you feel really stressed or kind of attacked, you want to act quickly to kind of get out of that situation. That's when adrenaline kicks in. And norepinephrine is a hormone that is similar to adrenaline and is also released by the adrenal glands. Its main responsibility is arousal. So when you feel stress, you suddenly feel more awake and aware of your surroundings. So that, again, plays into that fight or flight response, just like adrenaline, and can help you get out of potentially dangerous situations. On the other hand, when we are feeling well, we experience a rise in serotonin, human growth hormone, oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins, which are your neurotransmitters. So serotonin is the happy hormone that is responsible for your digestion, your sleep pattern, and your brain function. And actually 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, and it communicates with your brain via the vagus nerve. So this is where that gut-brain connection comes in. You have microbial cells in your colon that stimulate cells of your digestive tract to produce serotonin and boost your mood. We'll discuss this a little bit more in the nutrition section, but this is where eating a fiber-rich diet plays a significant role in your brain's function. Now, human growth hormone is responsible for the repairing of cells, the growing of new cells, and so this typically happens when we are asleep and our body is repairing any damages that were caused throughout the day. Oxytocin and dopamine are hormones that produce trust and bonding relationships, and dopamine is involved in motor control, cognitive function, and they serve as the brain's kind of motivator and reward system. And lastly, our endorphins. We all know that line, endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't kill their husbands, from the movie Legally Blonde. But endorphins actually serve a bigger purpose other than just making you happy. They are actually the body's natural painkillers. They work by binding to your opioid receptors to inhibit pain signals that come from the central nervous system. So this is really important for lupus patients that live with chronic pain. So by knowing the difference between these hormones, you can likely agree that the body is much happier with the well-being hormones, right? So we want to do what we can to ensure that those wellness hormones stay increased in the body, and we keep those stress hormones decreased. So when we talk about stress management, there has to be a change in our relationship to stress. And I know that might sound silly, and you might be thinking, well, who doesn't want to reduce their stress? But actually, a lot of people, when we think about stress management, we aren't always willing to change anything about the way that we think about stress or the way that we respond to it. In fact, some people are so used to living with elevated cortisol and adrenaline levels that it feels completely normal, and they subconsciously create stress to have a feeling of kind of like aliveness. So for any of you that may feel like when you are calm and you don't have anything to do, you might be feeling like, why am I not stressed right now? I should be stressed. And so you try to come up with something to be stressed about. So in order to manage stress, we have to be willing to change the way we think about stress and the way that we respond. We have to be willing to look within ourselves and be with ourselves in order to change our position towards stress. So we have to learn to just be and be okay with ourselves. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Managing your wellness. So there's 5 key elements in wellness: your breathing, sleep, hydrate, nourish, and move. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these. So first up is breathe. I want you to consider your breath as a built-in pharmacy. With your breath, you also want to think about mindfulness and meditation. So we'll discuss all of these as well. I think that these may be considered different categories, but I believe that tuning into your breath is the best way to practice both mindfulness and meditation. So think of your breath as a gateway to those practices, which is why I included them in this one section. So, did you know that that you breathe over 200,000 times a day? That is a lot for something that we rarely pay attention to, right? There are 2 types of breathing methods. So your apical breathing and then your diaphragmatic breathing. Which one are you? So to test this, I want you to take a deep breath right now. Did your shoulders move or did your belly move? Apical breathers tend to breathe from their chest, meaning their shoulders tend to rise when they take a deep breath in. Diaphragmatic breathers breathe from their diaphragm. So if you've ever watched a baby breathe, you see that their bellies can move up and down as they breathe. We were born with the natural instinct to breathe from our diaphragm, which produces a deep, more wholesome breath. But as we get older and experience stress, we begin to breathe from our chest, which produces shorter, more shallow breaths. Your breath is linked to every other system in your body, especially your nervous system. So controlled breathing can increase your body's ability to process mental, physical, and emotional stress, which makes you a more resilient lupus thriver. So want you to make note of some of these breathing techniques for different scenarios. One of the first ones is for focus. So when you find that you have a lot of things on your mind and your mind is running kind of a million miles an hour, you want to think of this breathing pattern called box breathing, which is a 4-4-4-4 breathing technique. So you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, then you exhale for 4 seconds, and you hold again at the bottom for 4 seconds. And you can repeat that as many times as you'd like. For stress management, it's a little bit of slower breathing pattern, breathing in for 8 seconds, holding for 4, and then a long exhale for 12 seconds. For sleep, for those nights that you are having trouble falling asleep, breathing yourself to sleep can actually be very helpful. Try this breathing pattern, breathing in for 6, holding for 4, and then a slow exhale for 12. Now, if you're experiencing a day where you're feeling really tired and you need to wake up, try this breathing pattern. Breathe in for 4 seconds, no hold at the top. You're just gonna forcefully exhale. So you'll breathe in and a strong exhale. Do that a couple times and you will feel more awake. Mindfulness is being conscious and aware of yourself, your inner thoughts, and your environment. Essentially being present in the moment. There are so many moments throughout the day that we mindlessly get through that sometimes we don't even remember doing them. But mindfulness helps us to be present with ourselves, with our health, our relationships, and even our future goals. So one way to practice mindfulness is to do a sensory check-in. You ask yourself, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? What do I smell? What do I taste? So you run through all of your senses. You just check in with yourself a few times a day, and this trains your mind to focus on the right now rather than on the future you can't control. Another way to practice mindfulness is through daily mantras or affirmations. So use the mantras on this slide to create your own or to guide you in awareness through each day. You'll notice that I separated one mantra: I trust myself, I trust myself, I trust myself. I did so because I believe that this one is one of the most important mantras that we as lupus thrivers can use. It is often difficult for us to trust our own intuition in our own bodies because of the nature of lupus. But by being mindful to choose trust and to trust our body, it becomes so a lot easier to do during times of heightened stress, especially during lupus flares. So if we can remember, I trust myself, I trust myself, I trust myself, your body will want to instinctively do what it can to protect yourself and your body during lupus flare-ups. So let's discuss meditation. So meditation is the act of training that awareness, that mindfulness to exist in observation rather than judgment. So mindfulness is again the act of being aware, and meditation is training that awareness. And we train it to just exist and observe rather than be judgmental. And this is a process of accepting things as they are, not as they could be. And there are different meditation techniques that are used to practice that awareness. Focused attention is a method that uses your breath as a focal point. So when your mind starts to wander, you just kind of go back and check in with your breath. You kind of observe that breath going in and out of your body. A body scan, this method kind of syncs your body and your mind by performing a body scan and bringing attention to any areas of discomfort, tensions, or sensations. And you can either do that starting at the top of the head and work your way down to your feet, or starting at your feet and working your way to your head. Noting is another method that works to acknowledge any distractions that might be taking away from your intended focus. So noting is when you kind of acknowledge and restore awareness. And so like if you are meditating and you hear kids running around, or suddenly an old memory comes up, you just make note of it, you acknowledge it, and you move on for the time being. Visualization is a method that uses an image of something, of a place, or of someone as a central focus. Awareness is a technique that allows the mind to fully rest while we acknowledge our thoughts coming in and passing by. So almost like if you were standing on the side of a highway watching cars go by, this is kind of what awareness is. It's just observing those thoughts coming in and out. Reflection is a technique that involves asking yourself a question and being aware of the feelings that come up with that question. And compassion is a technique focused on an individual that you know or love, and paying attention to what feelings come up when you are focused on that person. And this is an opportunity to foster an open heart and happiness in our minds when it comes in relation to that other person. So sleep is next. Sleep allows your body to recover physically, physiologically, and psychologically. So why is sleep important? I believe that sleep is the most essential stress management tool. Sleep is the time that your body uses to repair and heal itself from daily stresses. So poor sleep hygiene, it can result in elevated cortisol levels, that stress hormone that we spoke about earlier. When your stress levels are so elevated, those hormones, those happy hormones, serotonin and human growth hormone, cannot do their job. So you're constantly feeling exhausted, anxious, troubled, and frantic all day. But good sleep also controls your ghrelin levels. So think of this as your hunger hormones. I often think of your ghrelin as kind of like gremlins that are in your stomach telling you like, hey, we are hungry. But But when you have poor sleep habits, your ghrelin kind of takes over your satiety signals, and so it's a lot easier for you to overeat, which can lead to weight gain because your body can't ever tell whenever it is satisfied. And issues such as having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep can all stem from a bigger issue, and that could be just your bedtime routine that needs improving, or it could be a bigger issue that you need to address with your doctor. Excuse me, let me grab some water. All right, so some ways to improve your sleep that you can implement tonight are turning off your electronics 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime, lowering your thermostat somewhere between 65 to 72 degrees, and creating a dark sleeping environment, regulating your sleep and wake time, so aiming to go to sleep and wake up consistently at the same time each day, and then also increasing your daily movement throughout the day kind of tells your body at the end of the day, hey, we need to rest and recover. So those are some ways, some simple ways that you can start to get a better night's sleep. Okay, hydration. So hydration, actually, if you have a cup of water, go ahead and take a sip. I'm going to take another one since I've been talking for a while. Okay, what's interesting about hydration is that it's not about how much water you drink in a day. It's actually about how much water your body absorbs. So I often see people guzzling down a gallon of water a day, and while that intention is admirable, is their body truly absorbing all of that water? Or are they just peeing it all out along with important electrolytes, vitamins, and minerals? Let's discuss this a little bit further. Let's talk about hydration and what that looks like. So fatigue, hunger, brain fog, headaches, joint pain, stiffness, trouble sleeping, bloating, moodiness. Now, if you notice, that sounds a lot like lupus fatigue or a lupus flare, right? Now, I'm certainly not negating anyone's lupus flare. So before anyone sends me a strongly worded email, I just want you to consider for a moment the last time you woke up feeling this way. Knowing what you know now about dehydration, so all of these signs and symptoms, could you really rule that out? Could you really rule out dehydration? We're often so quick to blame lupus that we overlook other probable causes to the way that we feel. Dehydration can actually wreak a lot of havoc on our body, and it can make you feel like you are having a flare when in reality your body is just begging you for water. But dehydration can also lead to an actual lupus flare. So it might either feel like a lupus flare or it can actually cause a lupus flare. Optimal hydration, on the other hand, looks a little different. It looks like quick reaction times, clear thinking, control over your emotions and responses, greater concentration and productivity, and an abundance of energy to get through your day. So let's discuss some ways to improve our hydration. So 3 ways that you can increase your water intake is by drinking your water, eating your water, and moving your water. So if you take your body weight and divide it in half, that is how many ounces you should drink. So for example, a 150-pound person would aim to drink 75 ounces of water each day. And earlier I mentioned that it isn't just about how much water you drink, it's about how much your body can absorb. So your body actually needs water mixed with electrolytes, trace minerals, and fiber in order to absorb the water you drink. So this is what we call gel water. One quick trick that I like to use is to drink a glass of water when I first wake up, and I add a teaspoon of lemon juice for trace minerals. I add a teaspoon of chia seeds for fiber, and just a pinch of sea salt for electrolytes. So some lemon, chia seeds, and sea salt are a quick way to create that gel water, and I usually drink that first thing in the morning and kind of sets my body up to absorb water throughout the day. You can also eat your water, and this is another way to get gel water that will help your body absorb water. So fruits and vegetables naturally contain high amounts of gel water, and you want to aim to make your plate look like a circus. So lots of colorful fruits and vegetables. Vary up the colors and kinds of vegetables each week so that you get a full spectrum. And then lastly, moving your water helps to ensure that your water gets to where it needs to go. So your body has this layer of tissue called fascia that kind of sits over top of your muscles. You want to think of it like saran wrap that holds everything in place. It actually serves as an irrigation system for your body. So when you incorporate movement into your day, you are helping to facilitate the fascia's job, and that's getting water to your joints, muscles, organs, and everything else in between. Okay, up next, nutrition. So every time you eat or drink, you are either feeding the disease or fighting it. And the person who said this quote is unknown. I could probably talk about food all day, but I promise that I will keep this short. This statement on this slide is certainly true. Whenever you eat, your body uses that food to create new cells and repair living cells. Your body actually has 5 different kinds of repair systems, and we usually just think of the immune system as being kind of our protection, but we actually have other systems: angiogenesis, regeneration, the microbiome, DNA protection, and then lastly the immune system. And all of these systems can either do their job or wreak havoc on your body based on what you consume. And so I know some of you might be thinking, my immune system is already crazy, so what's the point of eating healthy? So eating a balanced diet filled with anti-inflammatory foods helps to decrease the amount of inflammation in your body. Think of it like a math problem, right? So your body has inflammation in it because of lupus, which is something you just cannot control. Now let's add on inflammation from sugar and processed low nutrient dense foods, add in dehydration in there. So you can see how this equals more inflammation. Now let's consider lupus inflammation paired with a diet filled with anti-inflammatory and nutrient dense foods and adequate hydration. Those are things that you can control. So not only do you have less inflammation, but you're also helping your body heal at the same time. And additionally, your body has that gut-brain connection via the vagus nerve. We spoke a little bit about this earlier. So I mentioned that your microbial cells in your colon stimulate your gut cells to produce more serotonin, the happy hormone. So when you eat whole, unprocessed, fiber-rich foods, those microbial cells are able to do their job. And when you eat a diet that's full of heavily processed foods, your body produces less and less serotonin, meaning you feel less happy and more stressed. So that's kind of how that gut-brain connection works. More often than not, if you need a food label to tell you if a food is healthy, it's likely a processed food. So think about the produce on the outside of the grocery store. Your apple doesn't come with a label because it's an apple. So stick to the simple, wholesome food choices that are good for you. This next slide has a list of different foods that support your immune system and calm your immune system. So take a look through these and try to incorporate some of these foods just a little by little that can help your immune system do its job. So foods that support your immune system: garlic, blueberries, broccoli, different kinds of mushrooms, chestnuts, grape juice, cranberry juice, extra virgin olive oil, and walnuts. Those are all foods that can help to support your immune system. And foods that can calm your immune system, so vitamin C, It's actually very beneficial for your immune system kind of maintaining that balance and not being overactive, but kind of being in balance to be able to do its job. All right, lastly, let's talk about movement. Movement is a medicine for creating change in a person's physical, emotional, and mental states. And this quote was by Carol Welch. It is important for you to know the difference between physical activity and exercise. So, physical activity is any movement of your body, so just moving your body, so kind of any activity that requires you to move. Exercise, however, is a structured set of movements for the purpose of improving fitness. So exercise is more structured movement, more structured, planned, purposeful movement. For the purpose of this presentation, I will refer to exercise as movement, because I want you to get away from the idea that exercise has to be a long workout session with lots of sweat and tears, because the reality is that that kind of exercise actually has very little benefits. So instead, I want you to think of movement in short bouts that help your body do what it is supposed to do. So when it comes to exercise as self-care, as managing your wellness during stress, you want to aim to move, not necessarily to be at kind of your peak performance time, but simply moving your body so that you can experience the benefits that come from movement. So movement provides benefits to both the mind and the body. So with just 30 minutes of walking 3 times per week, your brain begins to restore cognitive decline. So it helps to improve your cognition and your awareness. And your prefrontal cortex, which is kind of the area at the front of the brain, that is responsible for your decision making, your focus, and your personality. Now your temporal lobe on the side of your brain, that houses the hippocampus that is responsible for your memory. And so these areas are directly impacted by movement. So the more that you participate in regular movement, the more that these areas increase in volume with new cells. So think of movement as a 401k investment account for your brain, okay? You might not necessarily experience those benefits right away, but you will experience the difference in the future. Now, we are all familiar with the musculoskeletal benefits of movement and exercise. The increase in muscle mass, increase in bone density, and weight loss. Movement also benefits the cardiovascular system, making your heart more efficient at pumping blood and your lungs at getting oxygen to the rest of your body. But I also want to talk to you about the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system also serves as your body's own detox system and sort of homeland security. It carries lymph fluid from your tissues to your bloodstream and helps to clear out bacteria, cancerous cells, and other foreign organisms. So you can see why it's important. But unlike your circulatory system, your lymphatic system does not have a pump. So your circulatory system relies on your heart to kind of pump blood through your body, but your lymphatic system actually relies on muscular contractions, aka movement, to push lymph fluid throughout your body so that it can do its job more efficiently. So yes, exercise can reduce inflammation that is associated with lupus by helping out that lymphatic system. Now, before you go lace up your sneakers and get moving, let's make sure that a couple things are in order. One, are you ready to exercise? So being mentally prepared is the best way to ensure you have a successful movement or exercise journey. Be aware that your brain is hardwired to perceive change. Any kind of change is difficult. This is normal, and we all experience it. But thanks to neuroplasticity, it is possible to rewire your mind and your brain to perceive exercise as fun and beneficial. You also want to ask yourself, why do you want to exercise? What will it bring to your life? Is it important to continually, it is important to continually go back to that why as a motivator. Motivations like I want to lose weight, I want to look good, I just want to go up a flight of stairs, unfortunately do not cut it. Although we like to think that they do, they don't. They tend to lose kind of their luster and quickly run out of steam, and they quickly go to the oh well category. We sort of give up on those and make excuses for myself or for yourself, and you think like, well, I guess I just can't lose the weight. But motivations such as I want to be able to see my children graduate high school, or I want to have the energy to spend quality time with my spouse. Now, those motivators hold a bit more meaning behind them. So really encourage you to kind of think through, why do you want to get moving? And I know that we're talking about managing your wellness, but saying something like, I just want to manage my health. That's not necessarily personally tied to you. We all want to manage our health. But I encourage you to really dig in deep and identify that why. Why do you want to exercise? Why do you want to manage your health? Why do you want to feel better? And keep asking yourself why. Okay, secondly, you'll want to consult your doctor. So everyone's body is different and everyone's lupus is different. So it is important that you consult with your doctor to identify any contraindications or limitations that you need to be aware of. And this is especially important if you plan to attend group exercise classes or to work with a personal trainer, so that they or the instructor have a better understanding of how to structure your program or provide modifications if needed. This is going to ensure that you have a more successful exercise journey. And lastly, you want to make sure you identify your barriers ahead of time. Barriers are anything that may stand in your way of regular exercise. Things such as your time, location, finances, family obligations. You may live in a neighborhood that does not have easy access to sidewalks, so maybe you need to identify a couple of local gyms you can go to or invest in a home workout plan. Or you know that every Tuesday, Thursday afternoon, you need to take your son to soccer practice, so you know not to schedule your workouts on those days. So these are things that you want to identify ahead of time, so when an interruption does come up, not if, when an interruption does come up, because they do happen, you'll be prepared to adjust and keep moving forward. All right, let's take another sip of water. All right, now that we have covered all these different strategies for managing your wellness, let's talk about how to implement them, because it's one thing to know them and it's another thing to actually do them, okay? We'll talk about the DAAN method, SMART goals, and habit stacking. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself, do you have DAAN? And DAAN is a method of assessing your commitment to change. Because before you can make a change in your life, your health, your relationships, your career, whatever it may be, you have to want to change. So do you desire to change? That initial motivation, what is that initial motivation? Do you have the ability to change? What tools do you need to make this change possible? You need to identify those tools. Do you have a reason for change? Now, this is a much deeper reason than that initial motivation. So this is that really, really deep why. And then, do you have the need to change? So what would your life look like a month, a year, 5 years from now if you do not implement this change, right? So assessing those 4 qualities, the desire, ability, reason, and the need to change, all play into your level of commitment for implementing these methods. So once you've determined that you do have DAAN, it's time to set a SMART goal. Now, a SMART goal is a goal that is specific. So you want to think like what, how, when, where. It's measurable. How long, how much, how often. It's attainable, it's a realistic expectation, it's relevant, so it's important to you, not important to anyone else, it's important to you, and it is time bound in both the short term and the long term. So think minutes versus months, okay? An example of that is I commit to walking 3 times a week for 30 minutes each day to increase my daily energy. Now, this example is specific to what I want to do and why I want to do it. It is measurable. I will walk 3 times a week for 30 minutes each day. It is attainable. I know that 3 days a week is an attainable commitment time. Is it relevant? I know that walking will increase my energy. So notice that I didn't choose like marathon training here because I knew that that would exhaust me, right? So it's relevant to what I want, which is increasing my daily energy. And is it time bound? Yes, 30 minutes each walking session for 1 month. Okay, so I'm kind of assigning that time, 30 minutes each walking session for the next month, which is the kind of the long term, right? And at the end of the month, maybe I'll set a different SMART goal, or I will choose to keep going. So that is how we set a SMART goal. Okay, habit stacking. So habit stacking is an intentional implementation method that I've actually been leaning into more and more recently, especially during this pandemic season. Being at home has really destroyed the routine I once followed. I'm sure some of you can relate. And I quickly found myself having zero structure in my days. But habit stacking has slowly helped me to regain control over my days and help me feel accomplished, even if I just stretch for 5 minutes. Habit stacking really focuses on pairing a new habit with an old habit. So for example, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will meditate. This is actually a real life example. This is something I've personally been working on because I found that I would say, I'm going to meditate tomorrow, and then tomorrow came and it never happened. And so I had to pair that new habit with an old habit. So after I brush my teeth, I will meditate. So after a few times, after I brushed my teeth, I just immediately started going to our spare bedroom to go meditate. And after I brushed my teeth, I would just have this desire to meditate in the morning. So habit stacking is not necessarily about conquering it all in one day. It's a slow build that will yield lasting results. So it's, pairing something new with something old, because that'll serve as a trigger, and kind of by building that new habit method, your brain is kind of creating these new neural pathways so that you desire that new habit more and more. Now, if you consider being just 1% better than yesterday. So like I said, this is about a slow build that will yield lasting results. So if we just aim to be 1% better each day, right, we're not like conquering, what's that expression, eating the whole horse? I don't know if that's an expression, but being just 1% better than yesterday, after a year, you're going to be 37 times better than you are today. Sounds awesome, right? All right, let's discuss what happens if you do all of those things, you implement your breathing strategies, you have great sleep habits, you improve your hydration, you're eating well, you're moving, you're doing all the things, and you still get a lupus flare. Did you do something wrong? Likely not. Managing your wellness does not mean that you'll never get a flare, but what it does mean is that the severity and the frequency of your flares are likely to reduce when you are committed to taking care of your well-being. So first, you want to assess. So assess how you feel and what could have caused this. So think back to what you did the day before. Did you have enough water? Did you maybe eat a lot of highly processed foods? Did you stay up too late? Or did you maybe push yourself past your physical limits? So knowing what is likely the cause of your flare will help you to know which direction to take as far as self-care is concerned. But of course, if nothing is coming to mind and you know that it isn't just a day to spend in bed, you want to call your doctor and ask for specific guidance and direction. Okay, so contact your medical provider for specific direction for you. Then after speaking with your doctor, you want to implement whatever direction your doctor provides, and then decide which of the elements that we discussed today will make the most sense to implement. So you don't need to spend too much time trying to decide, which element is going to give you the most boost in wellness, because all of them can give you some amount of benefit. So I just recommend that you start with connecting with your breath and your mind and asking yourself, what do I need right now? Okay. And the key here is to pause for a moment and listen for the answer. So if you ask yourself, what do you need right now? Are you really just thirsty? Would some water help you feel better? Maybe you just need a little bit more sleep, or maybe you need to get your blood flowing with a little bit of movement. Okay. You don't necessarily have to go down the list and do all of them, but just ask yourself, which one would make the most sense for me right now? Okay, so I wanted to provide some tangible resources for you all that you can take with you for those of you that kind of prefer some extra guidance or a little bit deeper dive. Headspace is one of my favorite meditation apps. I use this as a daily practice. The hydration checklist is a 14-day hydration challenge that will literally change the way you view and consume your water. Dr. Mark Hyman's sleep course is incredibly educating on the benefits of good night's sleep and has a lot of helpful tips and tools for improving your sleep habits. The Walking Well program is a step-by-step training approach to ensuring that your body is physically prepared and conditioned for consistent walking. I know that kind of sounds silly because it's just walking, right? But walking is just like any other exercise that does require strategic consideration. And lastly, the Lupus Foundation of America website has a plethora of resources where you can find more information on lupus itself. It has ways to stay connected in a community of other lupus drivers, and also provides ways that you can get involved and give back to the organization. Okay, so if any of the information in this presentation resonated with you, or you'd like to continue a conversation around managing your wellness during times of stress, I would love to stay connected. So you can visit my website, remadewellness.com. You can also find a free guide on there, 5 things to consider before exercising with lupus. So that's on there for free if you go to my website. And you can also connect with me on Instagram at Daniela.Spear, and send me a personal message if you prefer email at hello@remadewellness.com. Okay, so thank you all for attending this session, managing your wellness during times of stress. I hope that this session has been fruitful for you, and that you were able to take away a few items that you can begin to implement today to improve your overall wellness. Again, my name is Daniela, and I've really appreciated doing this presentation for you. So thank you for joining me for the 20th Annual Lupus Summit.